very much. I appreciate your warm introduction and I love the poem. It's such a joy to be here, and thank you, Peter Paul, for inviting me. We come a long way for many years, and it's always a blessing to just see years we hoped for but never thought how they would look like. But today we look at the dreams that were one day a dream, but today they are reality. So it's such a joy. And even to speak to us on a big topic like communication, it's a very huge topic. And therefore, I will take bits and pieces on it. But also the context of our topic today is in line in the communication of work-related relationships. And we want to enhance our workplace relations. And there are many ways to enhance workplace relations, but communication is one major one. And so I think it's something we'll never really perfect, but we keep learning and we keep improving every day, because then it makes all the difference. And I always say in the day of AI and technology, I think this is one thing machines will never do, because they'll never have emotions, they'll never have feelings, and they'll never know how to, appeal to their logic and also appeal to the emotion. So machines can maybe stick with appealing to logic, but as human beings, we have the capacity to appeal both to the knowledge, to the logic and also to the emotion when we speak to people. I'd like to begin by sharing my slides. And I have one slide here I would like just to share with us in terms of the communication grid. I think for me, it sets a good foundation in terms of looking at when we speak, why do we communicate? I think for me, of all the things we can say about communication is to understand that we have an opportunity to speak for different purposes. And so anytime you think of communication, it's always good to ask yourself, what would you want to achieve with that communication? Because then it determines how you take up all the other things. So as much as you'll be saying, you need to know your audience and who you're speaking to, the purpose of that communication matters so much, so that you're able to bring together the right expectations. So the grid has two versions, in terms of the purpose of the communication, which aligns with the strength of the response you require from the listener. So in a case where you don't require any response from the listener, then you can be at the bottom there, which is at an entertain level. And of course, this has to be continuous. Even if you're going to speak to inform people, or you're going to speak to take action or to convince, we must remember that the basic need of all listeners is to be entertained at some level. So you either have to choose a topic that is of interest to them, or choose a method that is interesting to them, so that then it appeals to their emotion first, and then it can appeal to their logic into the action you want them to take. The other thing I would like to mention is the fundamentals. And I believe these are three fundamentals that are key for us when we are communicating. Anytime we speak, and people tell me, Mercy, sometimes I'm nervous or I feel unsure about some speaking engagement, or I've been told to make this announcement, and we hesitate to communicate because sometimes we are not very sure. And it's very important for us to tick these 3 E's. Anytime we have to speak, you have to tick the 3 E's and say, 1, have I earned the right? You see, if you've not earned the right, then you'll feel like an imposter. So either you've earned the right through study, whatever material you're talking about, you've studied it, or you have experience. And the power of your experience is so immeasurable, you can't compare it with anyone, because your story is very, very authentically yours. And so learning to speak from your own experiences becomes then very powerful, because it's your story and you've earned the right fully to speak about your story. The other thing is you must be excited. If you're not feeling a positive feeling about your subject, then you will be very boring. And unfortunately, and I'll share with us some statistics on how, we've seen how many people say that a talk was boring. The numbers are amazingly high. And I don't know whether you can do the same survey around where you communicate. But the truth is, the human mind, especially for adults, is very, very short spaced in terms of attention. So for people to give you attention, even for 20 minutes, it takes you to really speak about something you're very excited about, something you're eager to talk to them about, because they need to see the value they are going to get in listening to you. And therefore, if you've not ticked these 3 E's, then you'll find you will struggle to communicate. So whenever we come to communicating with people, and you've looked at why you want to communicate, what's the purpose, what action would you like them to take, then ask yourself, have I earned the right? Am I eager and am I excited about what I want to talk about? And therefore, it's good to decline any topics you feel you're not very confident about or you're not passionate about, because then it's very difficult to just, do it. The other thing about communication is the feedback. And I would like to share an analogy around, for example, when you look at, there's something we call the Johari window. And the Johari window explains quite well. And I'll share with us this so that we form a foundation around what could be the opportunities we have when it comes to, sorry, I think I shared the wrong screen. So let me share the right one. I just wanted to show us the Johari window so that we appreciate the power of the communication for ourselves, because we are here as individuals who are looking to improve their lives and who are looking to grow in terms of how better we do it. So whenever you communicate, there are things you know about yourself and how you communicate. And we also know about it. People know your style, people know how you talk, people know your voice. And therefore, we call that common ground. And it's always important to start with that. So you need to be able to get some form of feedback to allow you to know. Now, the other part is what you know, but others don't know about how you communicate. So every one of us must have some secret somewhere. And I know one time I read a book about a very prominent speaker who said they are very nervous, but they don't look nervous. So they said they always put some pins, like safety pins in their pocket, and they have to keep touching them and counting to like divert that nervous energy to some location. And so what we need to remember is that people don't know what you're feeling unless you show them. And for me, that is very powerful, because sometimes we think how we feel is also what people see. And the truth is, we can only see what you show us, what's on the common ground. So it's very important then to be aware of your body language. Be aware of some movements that may give the wrong signal, the wrong message. So the facade is not a pretense, but it's just to know, even in very powerful communication, like in songs and poems, that's why we wear costumes, because they enhance that image. And let's remember, we all think in terms of pictures as human beings. So let's take a minute and think about it. If I give you a story, I would like you to put on the chat what comes to your mind when you think about what I'll share. So this morning, when I was coming to the venue where I am at now, I saw a big dog. I saw a big dog. So I'd like you to write on the chat, what do you think about the dog I saw? Did you see the word DOG, or did you see an animal, an image of an animal? All right, thank you. Somebody's saying they saw an animal. All right. And many of us, we saw an image of an animal. Please describe the animal you saw. Was the dog standing or seated? Oh, Ayusa even says it was black. Okay, fine. Put the color. What color do you think the animal was? Okay, Carol says it was black and big. It was standing. It was brown. And it's an image of an animal standing, German Shepherd. Lynette even gave us a breed, a brown bulldog, a harsh black dog, black and white. Amazing. So as you can see, I didn't tell you all this information, but you have imagined how it looked like. What if I tell you the dog I saw was big, it was fluffy, and it was pink in color. It was like baby pink. And it was not fierce at all. It was not standing. It was lying down with its fluffy flag, the fur coming all over its face, and it has big floppy ears. What comes to your mind now? When I tell you the dog I saw was color pink, hot pink. I don't know whether hot pink is a good description, but it's pink. You know, what do you think about that? Okay, friendly dog. Okay, yeah, a weird animal. Thank you, Nyambura. Yes. Catherine says, I think it was a teddy bear. Awesome, awesome. This is the power of communication. And what you need to remember is that if the picture in my mind and the one you're thinking do not come together, then what I do is I plant doubt. And you start thinking maybe it was a picture. Yeah, then I tell you, yeah, actually it was on a billboard. It was just there looking nice on the billboard. Then you're like, yeah, it's a cartoon. Now you settle because it's not something that's so weird now anymore in your mind. And so it's very important to remember when we communicate with other people, we immediately put a mind picture in their mind. So for every word you speak, you put a mental picture in the other person's mind. Now, if those two pictures are the same, then we are communicating. But if they are not, then you're talking one thing and they're understanding another thing. And then we have misunderstanding or misperception and all that. And there are so many filters. And therefore, we need to remember to know things about our communication that may not be known by other people. And it's important to know that. And then we need to remember there are some blind spots. There's things that other people know about how you communicate, but they are not known to you. And this becomes a danger because if you don't have feedback about how you speak and how you communicate and what people really enjoy or like about what you say, then you'd continue with a bit of that ignorance. And it takes me back to the days at the university, where you'd sit in a lecture and you'd wonder, does this lecturer know about how he communicates? Because it's not efficient. And in those cases, because you are sitting an exam, you have to struggle to listen. But in normal cases in life, you're not sitting exams, so people don't owe you so much to listen to you. And therefore, we have to put more effort to get feedback and to get into setups that allow us to know how we are experienced by other people. And so the question is always, how do other people experience you and your communication? So it's very important for us to look even at recording ourselves. It's good to hear your voice back to you. I don't know how many people have ever listened to their recorded voice, but it will be good even in a recording to listen. And when you listen to yourself, you're able to understand some of the blind spots. Maybe when you speak, you always do your speech like this, or you always do this, or there's something you do, or there's a word you use like a clutch. Some people say, and they talk and say, they say, and they talk, and and you can hear yourself over and over again. And now you're aware. And when you're aware, then you can be able to shift now to what we know about you and what others know about you. So it's very important to keep growing the common ground quadrant and reducing the blind spot quadrant as a communicator. And of course, there are things we are not conscious about. They are unconscious. So others don't know, and we also don't know them. So those are part of it. They are mysteries of life. But again, we'll keep discovering more and more. So I always say, don't think you've reached your end and say, I'm good or I'm bad. There's always room to improve yourself. I always say, put yourself in opportunities. Maybe you're a very good communicator when situations are happy. Some people are very good communicators when you're greeting people and starting conversations, but you can't carry the conversation forward. Others are not very good in negotiating, or negotiations. So it's good to ask yourself, which are the areas that you'd need to work on to increase your communication? Maybe when your emotions are settled, you're a very good communicator, but when you're annoyed or when you're angered by somebody, then it messes how you communicate. How do you put your ideas together? And therefore, it's very important to always have a performance mindset around your communication. Maybe you're good at speaking, but not very good in big crowds. Or maybe your writing is not very good. So it's always good to have room for growth because communication is not just spoken, it's also written. It's also your ability to listen to other people. And that's a challenge I'll throw back to us because statistics have shown that we rarely listen to people. People hear each other, but we rarely listen. And therefore, proactive listening becomes very important then as a skill of a leader. So that then you say, how do I listen? And even today, as you start your week, you are able to ask ourselves, how do I listen? Maybe you're listening to people, maybe you are pretending you're listening or you're selectively hearing them. But it's good to say, how do I listen to people? Do I stop everything I'm doing? Do I focus on them? Am I able to tell their nonverbal communication so that the way I listen is another way of communication? And it's a very powerful part of it. So as much as you may think communication is just speaking or telling people, it's more also how we listen to them, how we understand what people are asking us, the questions we ask. It's always important to find that combination because it's never a monologue. A dialogue is about two people. It's about you're giving information, it's coming back. You're nonverbal, they are congruent. And congruence is another powerful thing we can think about. So congruence is what you're saying and how you're saying it are the same. They are looking the same. So it's very important, again, that we are congruent. You can't be giving sad news and you look very happy and excited. It just beats them. I mean, it's very confusing. And so congruence becomes another goal for all communicators. So anytime we think about communication and working with our people where we work, then it's again the structure. What structure do you have for different situations? So that then your mind has something in place. Because what brings nervousness is when you have no structure. For example, if you met somebody for the first time, what is the structure to start that conversation? You see, and I don't know whether we know it or we can guess, maybe write on the chat. If you met somebody for the very first time, what will you give as a structure? Maybe you already have it, or maybe you think about it. Let's see on the chat. What would you say is your structure for when you meet somebody for the first time? And thank you for those who are asking some questions. We'll have a session for questions and answers, so we'll be able to look at those questions in a moment. So in another 10 minutes, we'll be done and start the questions. So please carry on asking the questions on the chat, and we will answer all of them at a later time. So for now, just think about the structure you have when you meet somebody for the very first time. So imagine you've entered a room, you found some people, or you're in an aeroplane or a bus or an Uber. The first time you meet somebody, what's the structure you have of communicating with them? Or you're at your gate, you're leaving. All right, thank you, Odhiambo. Impression and energy, positive or negative vibes. Thank you very much. Somebody else give us your structure. Or how do you do it? That's just what a structure is, how you normally do it when you meet somebody for the first time. All right, now I'll say you greet them, then compliment them on something. You smile, say hello, my name, and I'm happy to meet them. Awesome, thank you. And this is a structure most of us learned. When you are very young, you are taught to greet people because it's our culture. And so it's very natural for Africans to greet people when you first meet them. For other communities, it's not, and other people find it weird that you will start to greet them. But it's also very powerful to note that greeting people is the first. We need to remember people are closed. All of us, we value our privacy and our space. And therefore, it's like a house, it's closed. So we just meet, and you have to access the house by ringing the bell or knocking the door. And therefore, a smile is powerful, yes. So it's powerful to start with a smile, because then they smile back. And it's also very good to say hello, and greet them. And you could say hello or good morning. And the next thing is to say your name. You introduce yourself first. And we also have a structure on that. At Dale Carnegie, we love to teach people all structures because we say it's the details that matter. It's those small things. When you enter a room and you're quiet at each other for the first 2 minutes, some people are quiet for the entire 5 minutes until the moderator comes and tells you, say hello. Even in this chat, when we came in here, I don't know how many of us got in and greeted people in the room. How many went there and said good morning on the chat? Because that's the structure. It's also a virtual room. But then you find the natural way is to always maybe wait for another person to introduce themselves, to say hello, and then you will respond. You say, if they smile, I'll smile back. If they greet me, I'll greet them back. They're saying today as a leader, we start the conversation because we set the tone. So already you've set the tone in your mind. You've decided this is my day. It's a great day. It's a beautiful day. And I have this energy that Odhiambo has told us. You have positive vibes. And as leaders, we demonstrate leadership by influencing our environment. So when you come in, be it a lift, and this is something I did. I remember one time I was practicing flexibility, and I was working with a coach, and I was working to be more interactive with people. And so I remember I was doing the practice at International Lifehouse, and the test was I'd have to go up the lift like 4 times and say hello to people. And of course, it's very nervous. You know, you feel, oh, you want to enter the lift and just look down. But if you enter the lift and look at the people and make sure you enter the last one, so everybody's already in, and you say, good morning, I believe you're having a great morning. You respond, and they are quite surprised. You go up, you come down, the next one, you go up again. And I can tell you it was very nerve-wracking for me, but for the audience, they are very excited. They're like, oh, this is good. Some think you're the owner of the place. Some wonder who you are. So again, it matters your appearance. You need to look nice and smart and feel good about yourself. Otherwise, people get suspicious. They're holding their handbags because they think you're a con woman or a con man. But if you look confident and you're greeting people and you have that great eye contact, thanks, Eda, for adding that eye contact, then you find you start the opening. Because as we said, if people are close, then communicating with them will be difficult. So let's make it a habit. And you may say it's not your culture to greet people or keep saying hello to people. But even if it's just a gentle wave, recognize. And I like the way the South Africans in Zulu, they say it. They say sabona. You see, they say, I see you. That's actually the meaning of the language. I see you. And then you respond, I am here. You don't say hello, hello. You know, English is a bit too basic. It's a bit not really giving us the correct mind picture. But if you look at our African languages, we really have that. We really have that. Even in our mother tongue, when we greet people, it's something more than hello, hello, and you know, you're off and going. So it's very important for us to see people. I see you, I hear you. And that's how we demonstrate leadership. It's not just to say when you communicate is when you stand in a podium and you give a presentation. I know that's part of communication, and that's big on presentation skills, which we go into training for people to be good presenters. And of course, if you want that, I mean, Paul knows where to get me. We can work on that. It's a whole training. But it's good to know that communication is every day. It's recognizing people. It's making sure we are observant. And when we see, we are able to smile. When we see people at workplace, and I know now we have virtual workplaces, it's that going on DM and telling somebody, I like your smile. I love the way you're looking. I love your background. When somebody comments, when they're saying something and you read, don't just observe and say, nice, and you keep it in your heart. As leaders, we go beyond that. And you now tell people what they are doing very well. So in finishing, there are some principles we learned from Dale Carnegie. And I always say, if you ever met me, I think this is always my anthem. Dale Carnegie gave me a very, very, very big transformation of my life. It's a defining moment when I was given the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a book I recommend for everybody. If you've not read that book, please get the book. It's available. If you don't like reading hard copy books, it's on YouTube, on audio. But it's a book that really transforms how you think around influencing people, communicating. So this book, which is a book we really train on, we have a whole 8 weeks program on it, but the book itself has 30 principles. We call them the human relation principles. And the human relation principles guide us to becoming leaders. And I know everyone seated in this room, you would all want to be leaders. And leadership is complex because leading people is complex because people change every second. They can start off happy. In 2 minutes, they're annoyed. Their mind can leave you when you're still facing each other. They can leave and go home, come back, eat lunch, cook dinner, and they're still with you in the room. That's the dynamic of human beings. And so when you have to work with people, then we must start the right way. And this is the final slide I would like to share with us about the human relations principles. For us to enhance relationship, according to the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, we need to start at the bottom of it. We need to start where we are able to see what do I need to do with people and which people do I need to work with. So for us to enhance the relationship, we start by building rapport. That's where it all starts. We want to build rapport, and it happens by us being able to talk to people from where they are. So for example, if I meet somebody, you've said very well, it's how I look at them, it's how we speak. It's also my perception of the relationship we have with them. You'll find if I think you're important, then I may take more time. If I don't think you're important, you see, the mind shifts on that. So again, when we meet people, we need to ask ourselves, how important do I think this person is to me and my future? If I think this person is important to me and my future, it changes everything. And I think that's the perspective I would like us to take. Always, never think somebody is not important. Every time you meet somebody, they may not be important today, but you never know. So always give people that benefit of they are human. There is that connection. So we build trust and enhance relationship. That's the first bottom focus. We focus on building rapport. And these are the first 9 principles of the Dale Carnegie human relation principles. After that, then you gain willing cooperation from them. And again, principle number 10 to 21 from that book, you learn how to gain willing cooperation from people. Because people can only give you willing cooperation. You can't force it, you can't insist on it. And if you try, it can work, but it will be the opposite effect. And finally, then you can be a leader. And when you're a leader, people give you commitment. So you'll find if you have rapport, definitely then you'll have influence and you'll have commitment from people. But if you come into a situation or an office or a company and you say, now, I'm the vice president of sales, I'm the new CEO, and this is how we do things. My years of experience have shown me that this is the right way to do things. Well, look at you and say, okay, fine. They kind of start resisting. So if you start at the top here, people will start resisting. And this is the temptation when it comes to communication, because we believe because we have the authority and we have the title, then we can start by leading people. And then you find people are resisting you. Now you get stressed. And that's why many leaders are stressed. Many leaders have issues with their own health because they're like, oh, leading people is so difficult. It's so difficult, Mercy. I wish I was working with papers and machines. The truth is, we cannot work with people like machines. So in case people resist you, but you insist because of your title and your authority, you insist, then they'll comply. They'll give you some compliance. But with time, they'll be indifferent. And it's a very bad situation. It's the opposite of what you want. So what we want is to build relationships with people, and it starts with ourselves. And how we do it, I'll just share the final 9, just the first 9, so that we just have a screenshot of them. But they're all available. If you look online, I can assure you, you'll get them there. And there are many. And these are principles that help us to build relationships. And they help us build relationships with every human being. For me, I like that they are universal and they are available. So we can all learn to use them. And so Dale Carnegie, from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he said the first principle in dealing with human beings is do not criticize, condemn, or complain. Then he said, give honest, sincere appreciation. And when you're speaking with people, arouse in the other person an eager want, then become genuinely interested in the other person. That way, when you're genuinely interested, honestly, you've engaged your logic and your emotion, and communicating with them is good. And as we've said today, you will smile. If you find you can't smile when you're working with another human being, you have to ask yourself what's happening, because it's not the normal thing. Number 6 is around the name. Everybody values their name. And so Dale Carnegie says, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. This thing of calling people nicknames because their name is too long or I can't pronounce it, we have to put effort. You can't be genuinely interested in somebody and then not remember their name. Then it means they are not important to you. Then you said, be a good listener, encourage others to talk about themselves. Communication is about how much airtime we give other people to air them. Because so long as you're speaking what you know, so you don't learn. But if you're listening to things you didn't know, so you're learning. And so take it that way, so that then it becomes something beneficial at all times. Then when you talk in terms of the other person's interest. Many times we talk in terms of our own interest. Many times that we can even think, If I showed you a photo today and I said, oh, we got a group photo, all the 82 of us, you're in the group photo. The first person you look for is yourself. And if you're looking nice and smiling nice, then you share it in your status. But if you're not looking very nice, you ask, is there another photo? Because we always think of ourselves, and we need to know that if you're going to work with human beings, everybody thinks of themselves highly and fast. So think about them also. Talk in terms of their interest, and things work. And the last one, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely, no flattery. Next time I come, we'll talk about giving feedback and how it cannot be a flatter or a manipulation. But it's good to remember, whenever we work with people, if you make them feel important, it doesn't matter who. If you go with the attitude, I'm here, my agenda is to make you feel important. And this goes into how much time you give them, how early you show up, and all the things you do with them, it works amazing. So I'm so excited to have spoken to us this morning. I'll request you go on, read the book, How to Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I'll encourage us to go online and check those principles. Just Google human relation principles or go to our website, dalecarnegie.com. You can download the whole thing. You can even download the app from Play Store. Please, let's have those principles. They are basics, but they work like magic. And over to you, Paul Peter. Thank you so much, and a wonderful, wonderful morning.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mercy. I knew you'd do it great. Just like you did it 10 years ago when you first gave a talk. For people who don't know, we started this Tabia Kitambo, and Mercy gave a talk in one of the formative sessions by Power Monday when we used to meet at the Clarion. And we've done with Mercy a lot of things. I relate with all the things you said. Yeah, just the other day, I know somebody here is now confirming. I was talking about the 3 E's. I was talking about the smiling and all these other things. So very beautiful. People can still put questions there. There was a question, I think the first one, Antonia, you can read them through. Antonia, okay. Or Noel, still there. The first question I saw was from Terry. And Terry was asking, Terry was asking, what opportunities are there for good negotiators? How can one tap into that? I think a very interesting question there.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think opportunities are many, very many. If you're a good negotiator, I say they are, well, you can look at them in all aspects. Negotiation starts with the basics of fighting or, talking about your own boundaries. You can negotiate on that. You can negotiate your salary. You can negotiate for a pay. You can negotiate for a job. You can negotiate to sell something or to sell an idea. I think it's one of the biggest benefits. If it's a skill you have to learn and learn very well, is to be a good negotiator. So for you to tap into being a good negotiator, then you need to be interested in it. Of course, there's a formal learning. We run classes on negotiation skills, but negotiation has different perspectives depending on what you're negotiating for. So it is very much into context. But I feel for me, a negotiator is somebody who understands both ends. You know what are the issues on ground, and you're able to bring that. Even when you think of peace negotiators or people who are solving disputes, it's exactly that. It's been your ability to see things from everyone's perspective, your ability to be very calm in a very heated environment. And so it's your emotional intelligence playing a very big role in being able to remain very objective and looking at the gains. Because I think at the end of every negotiation, you should have a win-win kind of an ending. So if it's not a win-win, I always feel then it was not a good negotiation. So if you are not a good negotiator for yourself, most times you end up with having a loose win. Other people win more than you. So you lose in deals or in relationships or in conversations. You find you're the only one who has to compromise on things or have to put away your plans or your intentions for the other person. And therefore, it's a loose win. So therefore, you need to be able to be observant to see how good are you on personal negotiation, but also in opportunities that come around your life, and the things you want. I think for me, the biggest negotiation is the negotiating for the life you want to live. I know we say here, live your dream, but to live your dream, it means you have to negotiate for it, to do the things you want to achieve in the day. Many people will interfere with your day, but you have to negotiate for the things you want to give them priority. So when it comes to time management, a big factor of why people don't manage time well is because they are not good negotiators when it comes to their time and how they prioritize their time and their energy. So I think for me, it's a great opportunity to be a good negotiator holistically, both as the best advocate for yourself and the advocate for the things that you believe in. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Actually, I love saying, and this is something I learned, that it should be win, win, win. When I talk about sales, I say you should win, the other person should win, and the organization should win. If you have a loser, then you have a big problem. Even in marriage, even in whatever relationship, if people are going to lose, then relationship will not be built. Somebody is wondering, that is Odhiambo Lale, what is in a name as an entrepreneur, and why did you pick on Carnegie? I don't know if you want to speak about that. Then
All
there is
right.
another question from Maurice. How best can I handle a situation where I think someone else already has a judgment about me, which might be wrong or right? It jumped. Which might be wrong, at least from my point of view. Maybe you can handle those two.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I think as an entrepreneur, it's big. It's big to the name you choose. And sometimes we are not very cognizant of the names we choose, but it makes a big difference. So I think I would recommend take time in choosing your name. Why did I pick on Carnegie? Because Carnegie wrote the book, and the book changed my life. I always say it changed everything about me, and therefore I became very passionate because for asking what happened, and I tell them I read the book, and I read the book. And now when I knew there's a franchise of the Carnegie Institute, then I went for it. I trained in Dale Carnegie for 9 years, recently bought the franchise for Kenya. And therefore, for me, it's been my life changer. I think I look back from 2005 to now and the difference that book made in my life and where I am today. So I think it's a great thing. For me, Carnegie works, and like we can give our name anything. I mean, it's just a brand. The other thing, how to best handle a situation where I think someone else already has judgment about me, I think that's something we have to always know. It's always there. People have judgments about you, correct ones or not. So let's just know it's there. I want you to even call your best friend and ask them, the first time we met, what did you think? And you'll laugh. You'll laugh at what they'll tell you. People will give you all sorts of information. The first time they saw you, what they thought. So your first impression, really, it's just a lasting impression. People then confirm it or later then get so shocked. They're like, oh, this is not what I thought about you. So I think we have to accept that there are things people know about us that we will never change. And it's not in our control what people think about us, honestly. You can do the best because we say you have your intentions, but your intentions have another, they counter somebody else's perception. So those two will always fight, intention versus perception. You could be coming on time. Your intention is, I want to be on time because that's me and I keep time. And other people are thinking their perception is, yeah, you want to show off to the boss how good you are and how bad we are, and you're setting a standard, and it judges other people. So let's remember, we can always arouse judgment from other people. When you become number one, what does it arouse in other people? They feel challenged. Of course, they wonder, oh my goodness, I need to up my game. Others feel bad. And we can see results of people's judgments. Some go extremely negative way. Others get challenged and say, if they can do it, I can also do it. And that should be it. So if you ever feel somebody's judging you, if it's somebody you can ask, you could ask them, yeah, what do you think of this? And they could give you, and you could manage that misperception. Sometimes it's good if you have the opportunity to manage a misperception and you have to cushion what people think about you. But the truth is, we cannot control what people think about us all the time. Some people will always think you're this way, yet you're not. And I think for me, don't spend too much of your energy about what people think about you. Honestly, you'll be surprised how little people think about you. People think about themselves much more, than that. And it doesn't really matter unless, honestly, it's something that goes against your values. We have to keep pushing for the agenda we have and the common good, the common values, the objectivity of why we are together with somebody. Otherwise, people will always have different ideas about you. And so if you give them room, it's not time to do that. I mean, they say anything and everything. So let's just be careful on that. Back to you.
Beautiful, yes, and we can see the 3 E's in you: excitement and earning the right. You really earn the right. There is a question. There are very beautiful comments there coming from different people, including Annie talking about that book is a real game changer. I personally have read it. In my family, I think we've read it a couple of times. There is this question from Charles Mudui. Thank you for sharing your insights, Mercy. How do you deal with people who keep interrupting your conversations in between? How do you diffuse? I don't know. Some people say diffuse such situations tactfully.
Yeah, so I think for me it's a common occurrence, and it just tells you somebody is not being listened to. That's it. They just have an overflow of opinions or thoughts, and they feel they're not being listened to. So the best thing would be to always let them know. Say, okay, you'd like to speak on this? Carry on. Is that it? Or would you like to say something else about it? And I always say in conversations, you have to ask for permission. And you have to talk to people in that sense. Is it okay if I share my view? Would you allow me to give my opinion? How long can you give me? Would you give me a minute? And that way you're keeping a structure around it so they know. Now, if it's in a group setting and some people interrupt, then you can put some rules. Like I know from the African traditions, I mean, there are communities that used to speak with a stick. So long as you hold the stick, you can speak. If the stick moves from you, and today we can use a pen, and so we can create that. So when you're in groups, like I lead many sales teams, and sometimes you can tell some people are really more talkers than others, and some people will never talk if you don't give them an opportunity. So what I do, I tell people we have 1 minute to speak, and I'll give us a pen. When your time is up, I will stop us. And so that controls how much everybody talks, and it gives everybody a chance. But if you're talking one-to-one and somebody keeps interrupting, you may need to confront that so that then you don't lose your trail of thought. Or you may need to give them more time. Tell them, I'll give you 3 minutes. Maybe give us your view, talk about what you'd like to talk about. Then after that, I will give a comment. And if they interrupt, you ask them, as we agreed, then you have to keep going back because this is a blind spot. Most of the people who interrupt people are not aware it's a blind spot. They don't even notice that they interrupt people. So again, depending on your relationship with them, the more enhanced the relationship, the better to give feedback. But if you have not enhanced the relationship, then you just need to know and feel compassion for them because they just are leaders who are not aware of the impact of what they are doing. So you have to let them talk. And then when they are quiet, you ask them, can I speak now? And then you say, fine. And if they interrupt again, you say, okay, you'd like to talk. You have to keep doing that until they are maybe aware, but don't get into the talking over each other and all that. So I feel it's a respectful way to guard yourself also so that you don't get emotionally entangled in that. So it can happen. And it also shows you either sometimes when you speak very slowly to somebody who thinks very fast, that can happen. They get impatient around that. So maybe you may choose a communication method of writing to them than speaking because that happens because you're not matching your speed of speaking and thinking. So as you're thinking and speaking very structurally, they've already moved on. So I always say, especially when you're talking to executive buyers, you have to be aware, or energies, people with very red energy. That happens a lot because to them it's very quick and very quick thinking. So if you keep ruminating around words and thoughts, they may just feel, okay, let's move on with the next thing because they've already moved ahead on that. So again, avoid repeating yourself. If they've gotten the point, move on to the next one, because then they may find it's not valuable what you're saying because they've already thought it through. Yeah. Back to you.
Thank you very much. I think we can go on and on, but we've run out of time. You will put your contacts there in the chat for people to follow you. If they have more questions, I see Kezia is asking, how do you give compliments professionally across cultures, gender, and things like that? But I think at this moment, maybe we need to go to a vote of thanks where we thank all the people who come. I don't know, Noel, who was to give a vote of thanks. In the meantime, please, we are going to have a dinner. for this. That will be our third meet and greet for the year, and I've shared the details there. Register early. And number two, for people who may want to join our WhatsApp group, I've also shared a link there. You can fill in a form in liveyourdream.co.ke/Power Monday, so that we can continue to share more and more every other day. And every Wednesday is a market day. Third is for people who may have joined late. We always have a Power Monday YouTube, through which we share all the recordings by Wednesday of every week, so you can subscribe. Yes, Noel. Noel, yes. I confused the two names, Noel and Anton.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Antonia, are you around? Kindly give a vote of thanks. Antonia.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and a warm greeting on this great Monday. From where I am seated, you all looking great. Thank you for showing up your videos. It's one way Mercy would tell us it's a good communication skill. And I want to thank everybody for creating time to join Power Monday today. We are because you are. And I trust that if it were not for you, this section would not be going on. And we want to thank you for creating time and making sure that Power Monday goes on. Having this number, we were more than 70, we were heading to 80 on a Monday morning when we are supposed to be in our offices. It's not something to take for granted. So thank you very much for creating time to join.
You were 84.
You are?
84.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, that's a really growth, and also it shows how much we are interested in this topic. And I can't wait to have. I heard Mercy mention about feedback. I can't wait to have that topic, and I will also get to your website and learn more about giving feedback, because it's one part that we are told the greatest asset that you can get from a client is the feedback. And we want to get it right and to know how to respond to it. So thank you very much, Mercy, for talking to us this morning. One of my key takeaways that I have learned today is the fact that as a leader, you should always start the conversation. Don't wait for the moderator to come and start telling people to say hi. And also the fact that I should remember names. You know, I've always apologized for my name being too long or being too hard to pronounce. I can attest, most of us here can attest that whenever I tell you my name is Antonia, they're like, where does that name come from? Where do we have to get an Italian name? And from today, I'll not be apologetic. You either get it or get it. Right. Yeah, thank you so much for the great insights that you've given us this morning. Indeed, we are empowered and we will be better communicators. And you can be sure we look for you, because this was just like a tip. And we also want to thank the team behind Power Monday being hosted by Live Your Dream. We are truly grateful for the work that you're doing. You do so much, and making sure that we get the best speakers and they come here and they are able to transform lives in this place. So we are really grateful. Thank you to our chairman, Paul Peter. We thank our media person, Odhiambo Lale, our great man, Mr. Melvin. He really does a great job in helping us think right. And our moderator, Madam Noel, we are really grateful. Thank you so much for bringing this together and putting it in making sure that we have these conversations every other Monday. We are really grateful. And for Live Your Dream for giving us this platform. We know that you have really sacrificed and make sure that we have this platform where we can host this meeting. Asanteni sana, and let's have a great week and a great communicating team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Great. Noel, next item on the list.
So we go to announcements. And Antonia, I know you have some announcements to make. A dinner is coming. Guys, show up. Ladies, dress up. for the dinner dresses zitoke penye ziliekwa zipelekwe kwa laundry mapema. And